Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. How y'all doing this evening? Yeah, I kind of, wish I could pull off Edge, if I had the longer hair, I'd say maybe I could do so. Well, he always didn't wear the sunglasses, so I can get rid of the sunglasses. So, for the time being, say what, not. But you see, I'm always looking out for opportunity in a lot of things, as you all know in life. And of course, tonight we will be at one point talking about the radar superstar himself, Edge. The guy, he admits he did some bad things while part of the WWE. He cheated. He didn't really cheat, but he was just, slick. Did some things the dirty way, not completely bad. Although he did marry Vicky Guerrero, he divorced Vicky Guerrero. Well, back in the day, he did, have a nice live sex celebration with Lita in the ring. As in real life, of course, Lita did cheat on Matt Hardy with Edge. But also, in those opportunities, around all of that, the radar superstar himself, despite, having a college career short, became multiple-time world champion. Now, of course, there were definitely, of course, over the years, WWE has had its fair share of world title names. WWE Champion, World Heavyweight Champion, WWE World Heavyweight Champion, WWE World Champion, and just recently also WWE Universal Champion, a.k.a. the Fruit Roll-Up. But nothing has remained as prestige in WWE history, been around long enough, than the WWE Championship. Of course, Edge. Edge, was more famous for the World Championships, and he had like a couple of world runs here and there with the WWE title, but they weren't as memorable because in Edge's time, of course, the World Heavyweight Championship was on the Blue brand, and so that's probably the reason why his world title runs are probably better than his WWE title runs. Of course, though, there's other people as well as world champions besides his Edge. And I'm not really pulling off an Edge invitation here, so I'm just going to sit down and keep this belt on my shoulder because we are talking about champions tonight. Well, some are real champions, some are not. And I'll explain that in a second. But guys, what is going on? This is the Club of the Man 1993, and I'm coming at you for my top 10 special live stream of the week. It is Thursday night as always, and as I said, for the month of November, since October was mostly in the best of the women, we're going to do, of course, the best of the men for the most part this month, I'd say. Actually, pretty much are doing the best of the men for the rest of this month. And last week, we did my top 10 mid-card champions. United States and Intercontinental Champions focused on last week. Well, this week, I was going to do, like last week, I was going to do two separate lists. Top 10 WWE and top 10 World Champions, like World Heavyweight Champions. Because, let's face it, the Universal Championship has had a crappy history so far with its time. But then, of course, I'm making the lists. And I can't come up with a solid 10 WWE champion reigns, pretty much, if you know what I mean. So I didn't want to just do just one list again this week. I wanted to do two. Now, last week I could have done my top 10 worst mid-card champions as well. And if you hear people screaming in the background, that's my parents watching the football game. Well, mostly my dad. My mom just, doesn't really know football that well. But anyways, so I came up with a second list. So we're going to do my top 10 world champions. It's a combination of WWE and World Heavyweight Champions. And we'll do a second list of the top 10 worst men's singles championships. That includes WWE Championship runs, World Heavyweight Championship runs, Universal Championship runs, Intercontinental Championship runs, United States Championship runs, and even I included a Cruiserweight Championship run on this list as well whatsoever for the top 10 worst men's singles championship runs of all time. So I will eventually do tag teams. I didn't include tag teams at all for this month's series, but we will do streams on tag teams though eventually, and tag team champions and best and worst and whatnot. But we'll do that later on. Do we got anybody in the live chat right now? Let's see what we have here. It's loading. Doesn't look like nobody yet, which is completely fine. But yeah, so if you're participating in the live chat, once again, this will be my top 10 world champions, which again is WWE and World Heavyweight Champions also in that list, and then we'll do the top 10 worst men's singles champions. Because then again, I couldn't come up with a list for both. For one list is WWE and one list is for just world champions. So again, world and WWE champions, the best will be the first list. The second list will be the worst men's singles championships. Again, that's WWE, World Heavyweight Champions, Universal, Intercontinental, United States, and even one Cruiserweight champion I got in there. So if you want to throw any names in there as well, guys, feel free to leave them in the live chat. And without further ado, let's get started. Usually I like to start with the worst first, then finish off with the best. But since the main list for this, the main topic for this video was supposed to be world champions, we'll do the best of the WWE and world champions first, before we do the worst singles men's champions. Since again, that was kind of combined with last week's stream. So we'll do the top 10 best WWE and world champions first. So champions of the world, let's get right into it. And I will keep this on my shoulder throughout this whole stream. So let's start with, again, the top 10 WWE world champions of all time. This is my list again. And as I always put the disclaimer out there, again, being a late bloomer fan, there's been several, stuff in the past that, I've come across. But again, I feel like I can't appreciate it quite as much as I can, some of the more recent stuff. So these lists will have some stuff from the past as well. Of course, the worst champions are more recent than from the past, but we'll get to that later. And plus, too, I'm pretty sure we've had some of the worst in this PG era, because the Attitude Era and the Ruthless Aggression Era, yeah, probably had some of its down times, but they still had a lot more good times than we get in this PG era on the main roster today. But let's get started with my list for top 10 WWE World Champions. First, before we start, a quick wait. Yes, I am thirsty as hell today. All right, number 10, Daniel Bryan, World Heavyweight Champion from 2011 till 2012. Now, I know a lot of you people probably thought I would pick his WWE World Heavyweight Championship run when he won the title at WrestleMania 30 in 2014. I didn't pick that run, though, because it was very brief. And no offense, let's put it this way. The feud with him and Kane, the build wasn't too great. The match at Extreme Rules, though, was not bad. But that feud was just meh, especially with, Brie Bella trying to, run away from Kane. Kane with nothing her. Like that I don't know, that didn't really ring any bells. That, in my opinion, was kind of WWE sabotaging us for saying, hey, we gave you the champion we wanted, but now we're going to book him like crap for payback because we're going to get you all your money anyways. But so I picked his World Heavyweight Championship run from 2011 to 2012. Now, keep in mind, Daniel Bryan, of course, was kind of like, he was transitioning to a little bit of a heel role after he cashed in Money in the Bank on the Big Show after promising he wasn't going to cash in. However, though, it was one of those moments where the WWE had to adapt due to, again, that's my dad watching football, guys. Anyways, so man, it's throwing out big time. All right, okay. Just gonna block it out. No. Okay, anyways. All right. Focus, Mike. Anyways, okay, so Daniel Bryan, again, won Money in the Bank in 2011. But again, he wasn't one of the top choices at first to win Money in the Bank. And he wasn't really being treated like, he wasn't really winning many matches and really, winning matches or, just he wasn't really like, there wasn't a lot of momentum behind him winning Money in the Bank. So they didn't really know, what to do with him in the Money in the Bank briefcase. So he said in a segment he was going to cash in at WrestleMania, but I think he did, tease one cash in, but unfortunately he failed because I think the competitor was not clear to compete. Whoever was out there was probably Mark Henry, can't remember. So then, because I remember people were actually hoping he would come out to cash in whenever they did that mega suplex and the ring collapse at Vengeance in 2011. But Daniel Bryan couldn't cash in because he was at home. They didn't take him to that pay-per-view because they didn't say it wasn't needed. But then a week before the chairs match at TLC, where he did cash in after the chairs match between Big Show and Mark Henry, Henry was injured. And I guess, I can't remember if Brian said that there wasn't really any plans to take the title off of Mark anytime soon, but they didn't know the extent of his injury, how long he would need time off or what, which wasn't that long in the end, because he was, he wrestled in a triple threat cage match the following month at the Royal Rumble pay-per-view in 2012. They were trying to have what the next idea was to do. I mean, he was with the Big Show, but I guess, probably putting the title on the Big Show wasn't really what they had in mind. And then that day, the only reason why Daniel Bryan was at the TLC pay-per-view was because he had a Kmart sign that day. If it wasn't for that, they probably would not have brought Bryan to the pay-per-view. But then because that happened, they thought, I guess the next best thing is put the title on Daniel Bryan. So put the title on Bryan, and he kind of slowly turned heel. He feuded with Big Show and Mark Henry, heavy match against them. He had a match in the Elimination Chamber, which wasn't bad at all. So all in all, he wasn't lighting the world on fire as World Heavyweight Champion, but it was kind of like that run where it's like, hey, it's not like the biggest deal of being a world champion, but even though we're supposed to hate this guy, we still believe in him and like him, and we want to see him get the opportunities. And his chants are entertaining people, because when he first won the World Heavyweight Champion, he was told you got to act like you won the World Series, and that's when he started doing the yesing and whatnot. And the yes chants got over, so he continued doing them, and eventually led to the 18-second loss at WrestleMania. But as people always say, that's what made Daniel Bryan. Of course, the fans were pissed and they were getting behind him. That's what built the babyface and them to want people to see Daniel Bryan get over. That's where people knew Daniel Bryan, of course, from the Independents and Ring of Honor and whatnot. So they knew he had a chance to be something bigger in the WWE, and the fact that they just squashed him at WrestleMania 28 just pissed people off. But again, it made him, and I think this title run was kind of was what really got his roots in the ground, pretty much, if you know what I mean. So that's why Daniel Bryan's World Heavyweight title reign in 2011 to 2012 is on my list at number 10 for my top 10 world champions of all time. Number 9, Batista, being World Heavyweight Champion between 2005 and I believe 2009. I think he was World Heavyweight Champion. And I give this because, Batista deserves a lot more credit than he gets. As I keep saying, I only really see Batista live with his run in 2014, and it was a bad run. They wanted him to return as some big hero babyface, but like he said, that's not going to last for maybe 30 seconds, then the crowd's just going to boo him because, he even knew too, it was, not the right time to try to, shove him down the throats of the WWE crowd. So just seeing that run and how bad it was for him, kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. But of course, going back and seeing what he did, winning his first world title at WrestleMania 21, and he had several world title runs, mostly world titles. He did briefly have a run with the WWE title in 2010, of course, before he left. But again, most of his time was on SmackDown. He was one of the people who did make, the blue brand what it is today. That's why he was a good choice to definitely have at SmackDown 1000 last month. But he, even though, he probably had some mad feuds with Booker T, and which was some of the matches, Booker T's and Batista's matches, some could have been a little bit better, but some of them, were kind of meh, not really too great. Of course, he had a feud with the Great Khali. Of course, the Triple H was good, but gotta give the man credit, for what he's really done, and he definitely was one of the stronger world heavyweight champions. And yes, a couple times he had to relinquish it due to injury, but it did eventually lead to his comeback story and whatnot. as he definitely is, future Hall of Famer for sure for the WWE, and also the work he's done outside WWE in Hollywood and whatnot. But I had to give him the rub on his list as his World Heavyweight Championship reigns. Definitely, thought made him a good World Heavyweight Champion as well. So his reigns between 2005 and probably 2008 or 2009 or whatever the last time he was World Heavyweight Champion. But yeah, that's why he's on my list at number 9. Batista World Heavyweight Championship reigns from 2005 to 2009 is my list for the top 10 best WWE and World Champions of all time. Number 8, AJ Styles. Now, his second run's been all right. Even though some of the storylines he's been given were just meh. I mean, he started his second run with Jinder Mahal. Ugh. The Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens stuff was okay, but didn't really set the world on fire. Of course, he had a 6-pack challenge at Fastlane, which that match, even though the build was crap, the match actually was pretty good at Fastlane. But, there wasn't really much of a story behind that. The feud with Nakamura, let me just say this. I'm pretty sure if the bar was not set, I mean, the story wasn't really, they didn't really have a good story behind in that feud. But I think also a lot of us may have set our standards high for that feud because people who have been, wrestling fans for all over the world, not just WWE, know that these two had a classic match in New Japan Pro Wrestling. And when the match is announced for WrestleMania, these two wanted to see, a repeat. Everyone wanted to see those two put on a repeat of that. Unfortunately, in WWE, it's not going to be the case. So if the standards weren't set too high, I would say the feud was still all right. The matches they had weren't bad, but they definitely could have put on a lot better than they did for sure. And then he had the mini feud with Rusev, which the bill was okay, but the match was actually pretty good. And of course he's just finished off the feud with Samoa Joe, which that probably some of his best matches for this reign. And of course he just had the match with Daniel Bryan, which was great as well. And I'm not sure who's going to be feuding with next. Maybe The Miz. Or even he'll have a fatal 4-way with Miz, Joe, and Bryan. Not too sure, but the Miz's time is coming soon to be having this once again. Hopefully, have a better run than he had the first time. But anyways, I still say his first run is his better run as WWE champion. He won it after he beat up John Cena the month before at SummerSlam, which just made a huge statement for him and pretty much just lit the fire underneath him, even though the fire was lit whenever he turned heel when he attacked John Cena. As I always keep saying, AJ Styles was not a full-fledged heel. I mean, he was a heel, no doubt about it. But it was just he had to be like a heel in some ways, but not like a complete bad guy, but just more just like again an anti-hero who let's strap this on my shoulder. Actually, there we go. Who just pretty much needed the heel turn just to get the fire. I don't like it. Ow, what the heck am I doing tonight? Who just basically needed to turn heel just to help light the fire on him and his promo skills. And you know what? It all worked out and it got him to be a strong baby face on the microphone. But that first championship run was his best. He had a great series of matches he had with Dean Ambrose, both on pay-per-view, and I think he had one on SmackDown, 1 or 2, maybe 3 matches also on SmackDown. Then he had a championship match. He did have 1 or 2 matches against Ambrose, where if Ambrose won, he would be the #1 contender for his championship. Although I'm not usually a fan of those matches because that means the champion's going to lose clean anyway. So someone's getting an opportunity because they beat the champion. When some of them, made to prove himself, like a mid-card guy who hasn't really been in the world title picture yet, made to prove himself, beat the champion. Okay, if you beat me, you'll get a championship opportunity against me. If it's people who we know could beat the champion, having matches against him, a non-title match, and they beat them, then that's a problem to me. We had the feud with Dean Ambrose. John Cena was in the mixer. Also, again, they had a great. Ambrose and Styles had a great TLC match at TLC in 2016. Of course, they also had an excellent triple threat match at No Mercy in 2016. That was probably my favorite part of I'd say AJ Styles' heel run was the build and the match at No Mercy 2016 between him, Cena, and Ambrose. That was one hell of a feud. Great build and everything, and they didn't have to like, put too much respect between Ambrose and Cena, but they literally built Ambrose and Cena to hate each other in that feud as well. And I thought it was awesome. But, again, Styles, was just being a tough guy, a man to beat. He became pretty much with that first title reign, and he put a lot of prestige into the WWE Championship as well. Of course, the rumors have it that he was supposed to be the WWE Champion. He was supposed to be the Universal Champion because the WWE Championship was supposed to stay on Roman Reigns. But of course, he had to drop it to Rollins and Ambrose because of his suspension before he went over to Raw. But apparently, Styles was supposed to win the Universal title. So who knows if that would have been blue or whatnot, because it's a world championship, but it has to be color coded for the brand. Thank goodness they never changed the WWE Championship color, because that would have been stupid. But yeah, AJ Styles, even though his second run has been, not bad, but I feel like his first run a little bit better. Been a great world champion, represented and shown that he really truly is the best and, tough to beat, a man to beat in this company. And that is why, of course, he is my number 8 on this list for my top 10 WWE or world champions of all time. AJ Styles. Number 7, one WWF champion, Hulk Hogan. I put Hulk Hogan down here lower because, of course, back in the 80s where wrestling was still kind of, rising up to the occasion. Hogan, of course, was, the Superman, pretty much, like the big hero when it came to wrestling. But he was able to have some good matches against some higher caliber stars. At first, he had some matches against some lower card stars that, we knew that, probably couldn't really be Hogan. But, of course, as world champion, he had matches with, the Macho Man Randy Savage, who he put over. He also put over, actually, no, I don't think he put over Savage. He may have, but Hogan won the title and then Hogan won a title off of Savage, but he did put over Ultimate Warrior. He put over a couple of people, of course, later on in his career. Well, not all of them, but obviously as champion, he was also trying to prove that he really was the best in his generation when he was around as well. He wrote his name else was really close to what Hogan could do. It was over. Yes, eventually the crowd got sick of him towards the end before going off to WCW. And yeah, that last title reign that he had, when he took the title away from Yokozuna just a minute after he beat Bret Hart at WrestleMania 9, once again one of the worst WrestleManias of all time, maybe the worst probably. That was not good there, but still, Hogan definitely held his ground as definitely being the best in the company when he was champion, and that's why I wanted to give him. And of course, he did put over some good stars when the time came for him to drop the title, especially again Ultimate Warrior at WrestleMania 6. But of course, he won the match. He had another great match. He had, of course, with the Macho Man Randy Savage at WrestleMania 5. So yeah. But that's why Hulk Hogan is number 7 on my list for my top 10 WWE and world champions of all time. Get a quick drink of water here. Number 6 on this list is Triple H. But I'm going to stick to mainly Triple H's World Heavyweight Championship runs in his career. Now, his WWE title reigns weren't too bad, but most of them were around a time where it was either him and Orton or him and Cena, or one of those. Only those 3 were seen to be involved in the WWE title scene. So I didn't think, there's someone else on this list, of course, that kind of involves, the time that period where I felt they were at their best as champions, but we'll get to them shortly. But I think Triple H's World Heavyweight Championship reigns from in the earlier 2000s to 2005, I thought were probably his better runs as champion, because not only was his character at his best probably at the time, again, the more heel persona, just taking full advantage, excuse me, of having that power with, of course, being connected with the corporation and the boss's daughter and whatnot, made him, a strong candidate. Of course, yeah, he did go. There were times where Triple H, didn't put over the people who should have been put over, and he may have buried a few, I know, but he still had some great feuds back in the days, and also as World Heavyweight Champion as well. Triple H did help put over, you know, the likes of Randy Orton and Batista, two upcoming stars in the company, through Evolution as well. And of course, he feuded with them when the time came. Especially, I mean, the feud with Orton in 2004 wasn't too bad. Of course, you know, they had Orton as a babyface, which wasn't the right time to really turn Orton babyface, since they quickly burned him back to being a heel. But definitely the feud with Batista leading into WrestleMania 21 was great as well, and what made Batista the top, one of the company's top baby faces over the next 5 years as well whatsoever. So I mean, you know, the game again, it always, you know, has, you know, he has some good runs as a baby face also, but definitely you know, that's when he was starting to get to the point where it's like, okay, Triple H doesn't really need to be a champion. Because let me put it this way: there's been some people like Shawn Michaels and a few other people like later in their careers wasn't really racking up, you know, championship wins, but they didn't need championships to put on the great matches. And I think Triple H, like years down the line, like in the late 2000s, like in 2009, was kind of starting to, you know, overstay his welcome in the championship run. And also, you know, his championship wins were not really being, you know, capitalized on pretty much. But like in the earlier 2000s, then when he was World Heavyweight Champion, they were being capitalized on because, you know, it was still fresh. Again, him being more the, you know, the heel corporate champion, you know, taking advantage of his power or whatnot, was what made him a strong World Heavyweight Champion. And then he eventually was built strong enough to put over and jumpstart the careers of Randy Orton and Batista as well. So that's why he is on my number 6 on this list for top 10 WWE or World Champions of all time. Triple H, his World Heavyweight Championship runs, though. So far, this list is number 10, Daniel Bryan being World Heavyweight Champion in 2012. Number 9 is Batista's World Heavyweight Championship runs from 2005 to 2009. Number 8 is AJ Styles' WWE Championship run. Well, again, mainly the first one. The second one, again, I'll give them the edge also as well. Number 7, Hulk Hogan's WWE Championship runs in the 80s. Number 6 is Triple H's World Heavyweight Championship reigns in the early to mid 2000s. So that's my list so far. Number 5 is Randy Orton. WWE, I mean, he was a world champion a few times, but I think his WWE championship runs in 2009 was when Orton was probably at his best. I still say that may be the best year of Orton's career because of the material that he was putting on that year. You know, just going as far as, you know, even though Orton, you know, being in the main event scene wasn't as fresh this time, I felt character-wise, this was Randy Orton at his best this year. You know, he was targeting the McMahon family because he wanted to, you know, get to, like, you know, the big fish Triple H. So he knew what's better case to do than, of course, first win the Royal Rumble, which he had with the help of legacy Cody Rhodes and Ted DiBiase Jr. And he eventually, you know, wanted to, you know, take the championship off of Triple H. Of course, he attacked the McMahon family physically and mentally. Of course, saying the fact that his IED intermediate explosive disorder, whatever the heck it was, is, of course, you know, trying to put in mind as like, hey, you know, just have mercy on me, guys. I have this illness, but I'm going to use my full advantage. I'm going to rip you guys apart. And, of course, you know, Randy Orton, again, was putting on just, you know, some great championship runs, even though 2009 was not one of the best years for WWE. I mean, he had previous championship runs before, and, like, you know, he's the youngest world champion back in 2004. And, of course, throughout the years also, he saw some other world title runs, but I still think the best ones he had were in 2009 when he was the 6 seductive Viper character. And, you know, he has kind of brought back today as well. With the recent heel turn he's had back in Extreme Rules this year. And I think, you know, when he was champion in 2009, I guess I really felt that those were, again, some of his best years and best runs with the world title in 2009. So that's why he's my number 5. Randy Orton, WWE champion in 2009. His runs there, I got to say. Hey, Lauren. Number 4 on my top 10 WWE and World Champions list is CM Punk. He's had a couple world title runs earlier in his career. 2008, which was all right, but not as big of a deal because he was kind of like an underdog world champion. You know, people weren't too behind yet. 2009, though, with his World Heavyweight Championship run when he cashed on Jeff Hardy and the feud he had with Hardy, and even Undertaker, even though they didn't have to give a Hell in a Cell match, was pretty good also. But I only put him on this list because of, you know, the WWE Championship runs he had in 2011 till 2013. Now, I say runs because, of course, as you remember, Punk did win the WWE Championship off of John Cena in that great match in Chicago on July 17th, 2011, on Money in the Bank, the day his WWE contract was to come to an end. He won a title and he split. 2 weeks later, though, he returned right after, that earlier that night, Rey Mysterio won the WWE Championship, but then John Cena invoked his rematch clause from Money in the Bank ahead of the match and then dethroned Mysterio. Then to have Punk return at the end of that show, and they were both WWE champions. And then it was settled at SummerSlam where they had a rematch, which was still good. Not quite as good as the Money in the Bank match that they had at Money in the Bank, but it was still good. But Punk won there to get his second WWE championship and 4th world title overall. I'm sorry, probably 5th. I'm sorry, because he did lose to Hardy and then won it right back. I think that's correct. But then Del Rio cashed in after interference with Kevin Nash, and then Punk eventually won the title back at Survivor Series on a year, went on the 434-day WWE Championship title reign that he had, one of the longest in modern era today. So again, it all started with the summer of Punk pretty much, and when Punk was, the hottest thing going in WWE. Of course, they tried to transfer all that momentum onto Triple H and Kevin Nash, but it didn't work as, Punk saw the momentum going. He beat Alberto Del Rio at Survivor Series. He would continue his feud with Del Rio and even, have The Miz involved in the ladder match they had at TLC, and then he would have a feud with Dolph Ziggler, kind of with John Laurinaitis. Chris Jericho was great. The feud with Daniel Bryan was great as well. And of course, he turned heel, which was a nice way to kind of add some freshness to his character to keep that title reign going on a little bit longer. He feuded, of course, with John Cena, but then, and of course, somewhat the Big Show also. Was kind of late by then to have the Big Show, be feuding for the world title, which we'll talk about that also when we get to my second list. And then after, again, it was supposed to continue with him and Cena, but then Cena got hurt. So then they had to throw Ryback in there, but Ryback was not ready at all whatsoever to be in the world title hunt, which hurt his career big time. And that feud was, and of course with The Rock. But overall, in those 434 days, he still had great series of matches against all those guys, a good amount of opponents. Again, especially Ziggler, Jericho, even with Cena, which of course, their best match again was still in Money in the Bank 2011, but also get the edge to the match they had in 2013, where Cena's #1 contendership for the WWE Championship at WrestleMania was on the line. That match was great as well. I gotta give them credit for that match also. But he definitely was that time the best in the world in the ring and on the microphone, because that's a pipe bomb. Of course, I still miss Punk, but again, I know he's not going to be coming back anytime soon, which again, I do respect that. But to me, definitely one of the best WWE and world champions of all time, I got to say. That's why he is my number 4 on this list for WWE and world champions is CM Punk. Now, since Lauren, of course, just joined us recently, I will throw a reminder saying that I'm going to be doing the list of the top 10 WWE and world champions, and then the second list will be my worst men's singles champions of all time. That's going to include not just world champions, but mid-card champions as well. So make sure to stick around for that afterwards. So that's number 4, CM Punk. Let me check the live chat since Lauren joined us. Her top champs of all time for male are Orton, Cena, Edge, Triple H, Styles, Taker, Jeff Hardy, Rock, and Punk. For females, she's going to say Lita, Trish, Melina, Mickey, Maurice, Becky, Charlotte, Sasha, Beth, and Eve. Sorry, I'm late. No worries. Her honorable mentions are Rollins, Christian, Kelly, and Nikki Bella. She actually said replace Eve with AJ Lee, and then she said she'll be back. No worries, Lauren. We'll be right here. But anyways, moving on to the list now, we get to my top 3 WWE and world champions of all time. Number 3, in my opinion, the guy who I tried to do an imitation of in my entrance, but didn't really work out too well, Edge. Edge, of course, was like a 12-time world champion, I believe what it was. And I feel like he just really like, knocked the ball out of the ballpark with all of his title reigns. Well, again, World Heavyweight Championship reigns. His WWE title reigns, again, weren't quite as memorable, especially the one where he was champion for like WWE champion for like 21 days, just to be like a little bit like a holdover or whatnot for Triple H and whatnot. I think it was the title reign where he was a WWE champion, and then he lost it at Elimination Chamber. But then at the end, in the second Elimination Chamber match, he came out and replaced Kofi Kingston in the match. Well, he beat down Kofi Kingston, replaced him in the match, and he won the world title in that match. But Edge had that. Edge really played into his gimmick with the world championship, his world title runs. Again, that's World Heavyweight Champion, not WWE title. World Heavyweight Championship runs when he was the Ultimate Opportunist, where he's cashed in with Money in the Bank, again, sneaking into the Elimination Chamber matches. He was always, again, he was a heel, but he was, not a coward. He just put on ways, showing that he was smart and intelligent, and he knew how to win. And, we're supposed to hate it, but we had to appreciate it also as well, which is why, of course, I put him higher up on this list because his world title reigns were great. The matches he put on as well were great as well, with so many superstars over the years, especially Jeff Hardy, I gotta say. He had matches with Triple H, Undertaker also. His almost year-long feud with The Undertaker was great. I think he had a couple matches with Batista in there as well, to throw out some names there. Oh, and Rey Mysterio also as well, give him the credit as well, and John Cena as well. But I still got to say that Edge definitely, I think, and if I would do just separate just world heavyweight champions, I got to say Edge is probably the best world heavyweight champion of all time, in my opinion. But he is my number 3 on this list. Number 2. Now, my numbers 1 and 2 were a little tough because, again, because both of these guys definitely deserve it. The number 1, just capitalizes, again, on, just how great he was. Even though his career got cut a little bit short due to injuries, but like the statement he really made for wrestling and just bringing it off the ground because it was in the mid '90s. But of course, my number 2 is someone who kind of had to fill that man's shoes after his injuries started to taper on him. But my number 2 is The Rock. Because once again, The Rock started off as Rocky Maivia, a gimmick that people weren't really, getting behind at first. He won Intercontinental Champion, weren't getting behind him. But then when he became just, The Rock, Dwayne The Rock Johnson himself, and not just Rocky Maivia, people were falling for him, even though he turned heel and had to do so. And of course, he eventually became the corporate champion. But then, of course, so he was getting over, and then there came around a time where, Stone Cold Steve Austin's injuries were catching up to him, so he had to take some time off. So obviously they couldn't rely on Stone Cold Steve Austin being the biggest name of this company. So The Rock pretty much had to step up and take over that. And it kind of started at WrestleMania 16 also, where The Rock more so turned babyface after the corporation, turned its back on him and helped Triple H win the world title, which again led to the Rock and Triple H feud as well. Here, I'll keep the title right here. That way, I don't have to keep holding my shoulder. But he had a lot of big shoes to fill, and he definitely knocked it out of the ballpark again with matches he had against the likes of, again, Triple H, Kurt Angle. Even in matches, again, with Stone Cold Steve Austin are still instant classics. Again, one of the best feuds of all time, in our opinion. I'm going to put this down for now because I'm just holding this awkwardly. Against them. There were a few others, of course, his stuff with Mick Foley as well over the years were great as well. So, obviously he was made like the face of the company, once they started realizing that Stone Cold Steve Austin wasn't able to hang around for long periods of time anymore because of his injuries since they caught up to him. So he had a lot of shoes to fill, and I give him a lot of credit for what he did going through, starting from Rocky Maivia and being, booed out of the building, whatnot. Again, the Die Rocky Die chants, and then to, having to be one of the biggest baby faces of all time to fill the shoes of Stone Cold Steve Austin. That's why The Rock is my number 2 for the top 10 world champions of all time with WWE and world champions. So, of course, let's go over my list again one more time before we get to number 1. Number 10, Daniel Bryan's world heavyweight title run from 2011 to 2012. Number 9 was Batista's world heavyweight title runs from 2005 to 2009. Number 8 was AJ Styles. Again, both his runs I'll give him. Again, his first one was definitely the best. Number 7 is Hulk Hogan's WWF Championship reigns in the 1980s. Number 6 is Triple H's World Heavyweight Championship reigns from 2002, 2005. Excuse me. Number 5 is Randy Orton's WWE title reigns in 2009. Number 4, CM Punk's WWE Championship reign in 2000 from 2011 to 2013. But also give credit to his World Heavyweight Championship reign in 2009. Somewhat 2008, but again, 2009 was definitely better. Number 3 was Edge's World Heavyweight Championship reigns he had throughout his career. Again, I still say out of just the World Heavyweight Champions, I still think he's the best World Heavyweight Champion. Number 2 was The Rock's WWE Championship reigns, again, because him having to fill the shoes of Stone Cold Steve Austin. And, of course, my number 1 is Stone Cold Steve Austin. Again, because, Stone Cold Steve Austin, again, became one of the biggest names of all time, again, in 1997 after that famous submission match at WrestleMania 13, showing that he could be one of the baddest but toughest SOBs that anglers ever had to deal with. And that's the bottom line, because Stone Cold said so. But, I lost my train of thought now. Crap. I'm tired, guys. I'm sorry. But as I said before, he set the bar very high. Obviously, him deserving to be champion as well. I mean, he had to beat some of the best guys to get there. Again, I don't think he ever beat Bret the Hitman Hart. I'm not sure. Gotta go through The Undertaker, The Rock, Triple H, Shawn Michaels as well. They had a WrestleMania match, I believe, WrestleMania 14, I think it was. They had their match. Yeah, I think it was 14. Because I think that's when Michaels left for his 4-year hiatus and a few others. But obviously, being a world champion means you are the best, which means you can't place the championship on just a person just because. Road Dogg on Jinder Mahal. What was that? Oh, I'm sorry. We'll talk about those when we get to our worst champions of all time shortly. But anyways, but Stone Cold Steve Austin again emphasized being the best, and him being as world champion, of course, having some of the classic matches he had with those he had matches with, even though they turned him heel briefly in 2002, and it was not a good idea because you couldn't get people to boo Stone Cold Steve Austin. The guy still put on quite a show when he was out, and despite him having a limited time in his career, after his neck injury he suffered at SummerSlam 1997 in his match against Owen Hart. But of course, the guy just came off again as a tough SOB, and that is why he is my number 1 WWE and world champion of all time. So before we move on to list number 2, we will go over first again my list again from the top 10 WWE and world champions of all time. I was a little bit specific with which reigns specifically. Number 10, Daniel Bryan's World Heavyweight Championship run from 2011 to 2012. Number 9 was Batista's World Heavyweight Championship runs from 2005 to 2009. Number 8 was AJ Styles' WWE Championship run. Well, his first one, again, his second one deserves credit, but his first one I thought was his best, despite not being quite as long. Number 7, Hulk Hogan's WWF Championship runs in the 1980s. Number 6 was Triple H's World Heavyweight Championship reigns from 2002 to 2005. Number 5 was Randy Orton's WWE title reigns in 2009. Number 4, CM Punk's WWE Championship reign from 2011 to 2013, 434 days. And also give credit to his 2009 world title reign. Number 3, in my opinion, the best world heavyweight champion of all time. Again, Edge, his world title reigns. Again, not his WWE title reigns, his world title reigns. Number 2 is The Rock's WWE title reigns. And number 1 was Stone Cold Steve Austin as WWE champion. Lauren's not back, but that is okay. But that, guys, is the first list I had in mind for tonight. And then... oh boy, I can't get that yawn out. Let's get a drink to energize. Quite a swallow, I'd say. All right. Now here comes, of course, we're going to flip the switch now. We're going to go to some more negative topics. Well, with the second top 10 list I have for the stream. Again, I did want to do top 10 WWE and top 10 world champions in separate lists. But again, I could not come up with a solid list for each of the individual titles. So again, I didn't want to have just a one list stream once again. I came up again with a second list, which is I was going to do the top 10 worst world champions. But then I thought, you know what? I didn't do it last week. I can do it this week. We'll do the top 10 worst men's singles championship reigns. Yeah, we will do tag teams. Excuse me, some other time. But this is again going to be. This list is going to include WWE champions, world champions, world heavyweight champions, WWE world heavyweight champions, that is, universal champions, United States champions, Intercontinental champions. I even have one Cruiserweight championship run on this list as well. So once again, if you're in the live chat, please feel free to follow along here as I give you my top 10 worst men's singles title runs of all time in the WWE. My back. I need to stretch out my back for a second. Here, time out for a second. I need to stretch out my back for a second. I feel tired right now. I don't know why. Let's get a stretch. Stretch break. It's like the seventh thing stretch of a baseball game, guys. Let's just stretch out the back, twist side to side, arm from behind as we start singing, take me out to the ball game, take me out to the crowd. Boy, my shirt's coming up like that. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks. I don't care if I ever get back for it's root for. Well, we're not playing actual baseball now, so we'll say root for the man. If he complains, it's a shame. For it's 1, 2, 3 wrong answers, you're out. I don't know. At the old live stream, I don't know. I'm just being goofy as hell right now. Yeah, I just need to stand up and stretch for a second, but still be entertaining about it. Anybody back in the live chat yet? Nope, that's completely fine. Let's just put my my championship back on the desk here where it belongs, right in front of my weird-looking hat sculpture. It's art, guys. The art. Continuity? I think not. Well, there must be continuity. Anyways, but yes, so that we're going to now get started now. Of course, we talked about some of the positives. Now, again, because, again, I usually do talk about the worst first in my streams. And the best second. But again, I did the opposite way because the main topic for this stream was the best world champions. That's going to be my topic. This one, of course, is a mix of from this week's to last week's with main eventers and mid-carders as well. So that's why I'm going to say this list. I say this list for last is my second list, which again is the worst WWE men's singles champions of all time. Again, this is a list considering of WWE World Heavyweight Champions, WWE World Heavyweight Champions, Universal Champions, United States Champions, Intercontinental Champions, and even a Cruiserweight Champion in this list as well. And once again, I will not be including tag teams in this list. Make sure to definitely stay tuned whenever I do my topics on tag teams later on down the line. Without further ado, let's get started with the worst men's singles champions of all time. Starting off with number 10. Number 10, I have Ryback's Intercontinental Championship reign in 2015. Yeah, this one came quite a surprise for me. You see, my thing was, I did have a soft spot for Ryback. When I first started watching WWE again, he was one of the hottest acts. Unfortunately, though, around that time when Ryback was getting hot, as I mentioned before, he got pushed to the main event scene way too early. he went from having pretty much, squash matches to a WWE Championship feud with CM Punk, which again, like I said again, was the wrong time. He went on a 7 pay-per-view losing streak. And it wasn't just because he got put in the main event right away. Also, because he was put into a feud with The Shield. And pretty much all of Ryback's momentum got put over on The Shield, which in the long run still worked out for The Shield, but not for Ryback. It sucked for Ryback, but, Ryback, was mentioned before how, he definitely appreciates all 3 of them so much, again, that he, had no problem, after a while. He was not as upset after a while of all of his momentum being transferred onto The Shield. But then, of course, his career again went downhill. He had the 7 straight pay-per-view losses, even a terrible match at WrestleMania 29. He lost to Mark Henry, which the following night led to Ryback turning heel and becoming #1 contender for the WWE Championship. How much sense does that make there, guys? Huh? But, so that happens. And he loses that feud as well. He goes on to another feud with CM Punk that was not that good. Supposed to keep the feud with Heyman and Punk going, but, outside of the Heyman and Punk stuff, the stuff with Ryback and Punk was just atrocious. And then he went on to do Ryback and whatnot. Came back as a babyface after a groin injury in 2014. But, of course, he was not really getting much anywhere. So then came the Elimination Chamber 2015. And my pick to win that Intercontinental Championship Elimination Chamber match was Sheamus. Because, again, with him returning as a heel, I thought in order to capitalize, keep that momentum going, make him an Intercontinental Champion. Don't rush him back into the main event scene because it will definitely hurt him. Well, they put the title on Ryback. And even Ryback himself has mentioned in an interview that he was kind of thrown off guard. Why are they putting the Intercontinental Championship on him? And they didn't realize it's because, they're trying to offer him a new contract. Even though he was, reached his bullet point because from other stuff he said I'm not going to get into. But as Intercontinental Champion, he had a staph infection. He feuded with The Big Show and had some terrible matches. The Miz got involved also, and they had a boring triple threat match at SummerSlam. It was one of the worst matches of the show, I gotta say. That either that again or the match with Ziggler and Rusev was pretty bad. And then he eventually would drop the title to Kevin Owens at Night of Champions, and he would lose to Owens in the rematch at Hell in a Cell. But I can't really say this failed title reign was his fault. I mean, he had the staph infection, but when you're given the Big Show to work with, and of course, the Miz also, which now today the Miz rocks, but back then he was not so great. It was just random, poorly executed, and whatnot. And it just he took the title from a person who should have won that championship, but that could have helped him out as a singles competitor, Sheamus. But instead, they put the Intercontinental Championship on Ryback instead. Again, not one of the best decisions, and part of the reason why 2015 also was bad as well. So that's why that is my number 10 on the list for worst men's singles champions of all time is Ryback's Intercontinental Championship reign in 2015. Moving on now to number 9. Get a quick drink here. Number 9, Big Show as World Heavyweight Champion from 2012 till 2013. So my thing about the Big Show is, I've heard the man, speak his mind about how much he hates being on TV. Some of the stuff he said behind the scenes, has given me a lot of respect for him. Big Show's been a great worker in his entire career. He always just does what he's told pretty much, whether it's, to turn 24 times like he's done, or, joining, pointless alliances like he's randomly with the Bar now, which once again, I don't understand why or whatnot. So the guy just does his job pretty much. But let's be real. When he got older, again, especially in the PG era, Big Show has not really fit that era quite well. He hasn't had too many good feuds, in this time. I mean, one of my favorite feuds, though, involving the Big Show was his non-pay-per-view feud series of matches he had with Braun Strowman in 2017. They had really great chemistry and worked very well together, especially in the steel cage match they had on Raw in 2017. I can't remember. I think it was sometime in September or August in 2017. I think they had that match, that steel cage match. That was a really good steel cage match, and I give them both credit. However, though, Big Show has not really, in the last 8-10 years, has not really been on a level that makes him qualified to be world heavyweight champion or the main event champion. Excuse me. It's feels like he's just been in the same spot and not getting anywhere. And him, putting over stars is benefiting him more than him actually, winning feuds as well and just burying them in some ways, if you want to say. He hasn't really clearly buried anyone yet, but him being in the main event spot just hasn't felt right. Like it didn't feel like he really needs to be there. And them putting the World Heavyweight Championship on him in a mad feud with Sheamus at the end of 2012 was not one of the best. Sheamus, because I hear some people apparently saying that Sheamus's World Heavyweight Championship run in 2012 was not that great. I've seen some of the matches. They weren't too bad. I'll give it to them. But I remember hearing Sheamus saying that, he was never a fan of his babyface character. Because he felt like he was being more of a bully as a babyface than he was as a heel. Which is, of course, also the reason why he pushed for him to be a heel when he returned after a shoulder injury in 2015 night at WrestleMania 31. But Sheamus would just come off of a world title run. He beat Daniel Bryan for it. You would think they would have had him put over someone else, but instead they give it to the Big Show, who, no offense, well, so far I've been okay with this heel run he's randomly having now, even though he it's like, what's the point of this? But a lot of times as a heel, Big Show just looks like he doesn't look like a vicious giant. He looks like a big, tall child. He just acts ridiculous like one. He just doesn't come across as some, big, scary, big man as a heel, especially in his later years. Earlier in the days, I could say yes. In a PG era, though, it's not been the case. And that is why him being World Heavyweight Champion was just the wrong idea at the end of 2012. Especially when they gave him the big chair in the chairs match at TLC 2012 with him and Sheamus. Oh, goodness. Yeah, not really another strong candidate again to be holding the gold around his shoulder. I'm sure not his waist if he can't fit it. But that's my number 9. Big Show's World Heavyweight Championship run from 2012 until 2013. Well, the first or second week of 2013 when Alberto Del Rio beat him on SmackDown for the World Heavyweight Championship. But that is my number 9, is Big Show. Number 8, Enzo Amore's Cruiserweight Championship runs from 2017 to the beginning of 2018. I am just so glad that Triple H is in charge of 205 Live. Because here's the thing. There needs to be some aspect of storyline. Actually, let me back up for a second here. 205 Live feels like that show that needs to be the opposite of what WWE as a whole is in general. Chris Jericho states that WWE is a drama with wrestling as the background. And most of that I do agree with. But when it comes to 205 Live, though, that show feels like it has to be more emphasized on the wrestling and not as much about the drama. And 205 Live, yeah, we have stories, but the storylines don't feel like they're completely overshadowing the wrestling on 205 Live. And that's the type of show that 205 Live needs to be. Not a fully character-driven show, but these are cruiserweights with a certain style that's being emphasized that needs to be put over, and not just, their microphone skills, which they could have good microphone skills as well if they want to be more than cruiserweights. But that's what I'm just saying. That's like, what people expect of 205 Live. In 2017, though, I can't remember what the reason why they put Enzo Amore on 205 Live. Something with his music being used on the 205 Live tour that they did, which was a terrible idea. That was just ridiculous. Enzo Amore, of course, didn't show any type of singles potential in the WWE. I'm sorry, especially after how I noticed how bad they were booking him when they had that feud with him and Big Cass against Rusev and Jinder freaking Mahal. Don't even remind me of. We'll be talking about him in a little bit, though, of course. But I started realizing that the WWE just wants to book this guy to look like a joke, like a loser. Like, it made us feel that this guy does not belong in the WWE. And apparently also part was because he had some backstage heat. I heard there's some rumors about him backstage. He was not well liked. So you put him on 205 Live then. And then you don't even build him up. You immediately put him in the championship picture. He dethrones Neville, who in my opinion was definitely, before Triple H took over, the best cruiserweight. You have Enzo Amore, who has no wrestling, ability compared to Neville. Just after not even a month of being on 205 Live, beat Neville and become Cruiserweight Champion. He turned heel, which made sense, pretty much what they were going for, having everybody just wanted to beat down on him all the time. But if you had that much heat with that guy, if he was not that well liked backstage, why did you make him the face of the Cruiserweight division? In my opinion, it is what showed the true colors, how Vince McMahon really thought of that Cruiserweight show. It was not about the wrestling at all. It was character driven, but it was low card characters. And that's why 205 Live was failing until Triple H took over shortly after Enzo Amore was fired by WWE. And to think also, what pisses me off more, apparently Raw 25, Enzo's going to get a lot of time in the spotlight on that show. Apparently, the rumor was he was going to lose the Cruiserweight Championship through a bet in the backstage poker game on Raw 25. He was going to be the one who got put through a table by the Dudley Boys, and when of course he got fired, they replaced it with Heath Slater, which again, it made absolutely no sense the way it did, because Rhino, his tag team partner, was in on it also, but they didn't split them up. And then you had you're going to have Nia Jax somehow win the title back for him. And the reason why they had Nia Jax and Enzo Amore involved in a love angle was because eventually it was going to have Enzo Amore pretty much, cheating on Nia Jax with Alexa Bliss. Probably leading to, Nia Jax squashing and beating down on Enzo at WrestleMania or something like that. I don't know if I would have found that entertaining at all whatsoever. But my point is you made this guy the champion of the Cruiserweight division, who's not even a freaking Cruiserweight, and you're giving him all this spotlight, but yet he has all this backstage heat. To me, it just showed how much Vince McMahon thought of the Cruiserweights as a joke to pull a move off like that. Terrible choice. And if it wasn't for that, we may not have lost Neville. I mean, now he's in that Dragon's Gate, or whatever it's called, and if he's doing good out there, awesome, great for him. Because Neville is awesome, and he definitely deserves much better than what the WWE was giving him, definitely. Definitely, in my opinion, one of the worst champions of all time. Enzo Amore as Cruiserweight Champion. But he was not the worst that I considered. Let's continue on with this list here. Number 7, Roman Reigns as United States Champion in 2016. I put over the fact that even though, of course, before getting diagnosed with leukemia, we all know that for 4 years, Roman Reigns had been being pushed as the guy that everyone should love. But of course, it did not work. And to his credit, though, I will give him credits. He was at his worst when he was the challenger for a champion. For the most part, as champion, I was all right with him. His Universal title reign, he just happened because he had relinquished to his leukemia. That one was mad as well. That, I'd say, could be an honorable mention, but, it was too short to get on this list. But no doubt about it, his worst title reign by far was his 2016 United States Championship run. You had the title on Rusev who was much deserving of that U.S. title. And he was starting to get back on track after he fell off, after he dropped the U.S. title at WrestleMania 31 in 2015. Then you have him feud with Roman Reigns. And around the time when he started to feud was right after Roman Reigns came back from his suspension. So I'm like, okay, maybe this could at least be, Roman Reigns, until, the punishment wears off of him. Have him, put over Rusev. Well, first off, you didn't even have a good story in general for this feud that happened in general. It was just pretty much, Roman just came out during their wedding celebration, and that's why they started fighting. Okay, like that was lame enough whatsoever. And then you put the U.S. title on him. And thinking, Reigns could still be a decent mid-card champion. I mean, he did a great job when he was Intercontinental Champion for 6 weeks at the end of 2017 and 2018. I give him that credit. I like this Intercontinental Championship run. He had great matches with Samoa Joe and Elias. And I think a couple Cesaro, I remember he had a match with. He had the matches. He was being the workhorse champion he should have been when he was U.S. champion. Instead, he had a Hell in a Cell match with Rusev, which minus the cell, that could have been a pretty good match. But they didn't make it feel like a Hell in a Cell match. Of course, Roman was able to, escape from an accolade with a chain around his face, which that still kind of pisses me off. Still to this day, it pisses me off. But what makes his title reign so bad? He was getting universal title reigns, and he wasn't even defending the United States Championship. That championship felt so irrelevant. Like, they could have, taken that title away, and it would have made no difference than what they got. And what's worst of all was he only dropped it because he was involved in a 2-on-1 handicap match with the title on the line against Chris Jericho and Kevin Owens. I believe besides Rusev, Roman Reigns only defended that U.S. title twice. Twice since the feud with Rusev finished. And he dropped it to Chris Jericho, but once again, it was because it was a 2-on-1 handicap match. You couldn't have Jericho beat him clean or have matches like Sami Zayn or even a feud with Neville or him and Rollins could have had a U.S. title feud, whatnot. There were so many options. But apparently there were no options. No, that was just your excuse to still throw the guy into the Universal title picture, despite the fact that you pretty much gave him the U.S. title as a demotion due to his suspension. Such a shame. And again, like I said, if they would have booked him as a workhorse champion like he was when he was Intercontinental Champion in 2017, I would have been fine with Roman Reigns, U.S. champion. Definitely, in my opinion, again, Reigns' worst championship run, that U.S. title run. That Universal Championship, the United States Championship run, I'm sorry. The Universal title run he had came close, but again, it was too short for me to consider it, a complete flop. But yeah, that is my number 7 for worst men's singles champions of all time. But it's not the worst United States Championship run, in my opinion. Let's get to that, of course, with number 6. Number 6, Alberto Del Rio's United States Championship run from 2015 till 2016. I remember the night that Alberto Del Rio returned to WWE in 2015. And I was not expecting it at all. And the way they did it just pissed me off even more. So I never really have been a Del Rio fan. I never really was. I never really liked the guy. And his backstage politics also I heard he was involved with. I still hear he's trouble pretty much, especially after what happened with the stuff he put Paige through when they were dating. Even though, of course, Paige may have, put some of that stuff on herself. But once again, I don't want to get into that personally. But I personally, after the way his backstage politics were in 2014, to show that he didn't belong in WWE. It's not a place for him. He belonged wherever in the Mexican leagues or whatnot, being Alberto El Patron. That was more him. WWE, though, they were just not getting well along at all together. So John Cena, again, no doubt about it, best United States champion of all time. That run he had in 2015 with the U.S. Open challenges, despite the fact he won the matches, he still made everyone he faced look like $1 million. He put over, of course, Kevin Owens, Seth Rollins, and then Alberto Del Rio. Del Rio returned at Hell in a Cell in the opening match with Cena having a U.S. Open challenge. Out came Zeb Coulter, who we had not seen him in almost a year, since he was kind of written off TV by Rusev when Swagger and Rusev were feuding, and Swagger was trying to beat Rusev for the 50,000th time. He never beat him, actually, but I thought, don't tell me they're going to have Swagger face Cena. This is going to be a waste of time. I had heard so many rumors of so many other names, and that was one of the more anticipated matches I remember I had for that show. Instead, they bring back Alberto Del Rio. And I flipped. I'm like, no, why? Came out and literally had a match that looked like Cena just handed him the U.S. title. Of course, he didn't even beat him like an easy roll. He beat him with that stupid kick to the side of the head that won him the world championship. That JBL had to repeat to himself every time it happened. So Del Rio wins the U.S. title. And then they do that whole Mex America stuff with Coulter and Del Rio. And it was just awful. The only feuds that he had as U.S. champion were with Jack Swagger, who was a complete no-name. I mean, yes, it makes sense the fact that, Coulter and Swagger were once partners. But then you did nothing with Swagger for the last 2 years or so that he was there. And all of a sudden, he was good enough to feud for the United States Championship. That feud was weak as hell. And then, of course, they randomly split up like Del Rio and Coulter after like a month together or whatnot. Cena returns, but then immediately has to get rotator cuff surgery. And then he has a feud with Kalisto, who didn't really have that great of a U.S. title run either. But that's not much on the also for worst singles champions. But just a slap in the face big time. Going from Cena, who literally did so much with that U.S. championship to make it feel prestige, to then put it on Del Rio in a crappy open challenge match at Hell in a Cell, which of course was around the time where Cena was starting to kind of transition more so to the part-timer. He was on one of his first movie runs, and of course again he had the rotator cuff surgery though that kept him out of action for about good 5 or 6 months. 5 months. He came back on the Memorial Day episode of Raw in 2016. But just how he just brought down the prestige that U.S. title so much after that. It's a terrible, run of the U.S. title. The whole Mex American stuff was crap. The feud with Swagger was crap. And the feud with Kalisto was a little bit better, but nothing really that lit the world on fire, I'd say. But yeah, definitely a terrible singles run. I mean, his world championship runs weren't really that great either, of course, also. But I had to give that United States Championship run just a slap in the face, that run was for sure. Which is why it is my number 6 on my list of worst men's singles champions of all time. I'll get back to the live chat in 1 second, but let me just go over 6 to 10 one more time, or 10 to 6, sorry. I do that every stream. I gotta get myself straight. Number 10 was Ryback's IC title reign in 2015. Number 4 was Big Show's World Heavyweight Championship run from 2012 to 2013. Number 8 was Enzo Amore's Cruiserweight Championship run from 2017 to 2018. Number 7, Roman Reigns' United States Championship run in 2016. Number 6 was Alberto Del Rio's United States Championship run from 2015 to 2016. That is my 10 to 6 so far for my worst men's singles champions of all time. Let's see what we got here. Let's see here. I know Lauren had to go away. She was back. She also gave Miz, Ambrose, and Bryan credit also for being good champions, which they were. Best years of champions were 06, 07, 08, 09, 010, 11, 13, and 14. She also thought that Sheamus was also good. Some runs Sheamus were good. There's some, though, he was not so good, though. And we'll get to one of those runs here shortly. People who should have been champ are Torrie Wilson, Wade Barrett for sure, Cody Rhodes, yes, Maria Kanellis, sure, Austin Aries for sure, and Rusev. And also Owens could have been better. I agree. And she agrees that Orton's best WWE run was from 09 to 2011, which I definitely agree as well. She thought Cena's was 05 to 07. Probably also because the fans weren't really hating on him quite yet, also, I'd say. Worst champs are Ryback, Big Show, Steph, even though she loves her, Brie, Lesnar, Nia, Ronda, and Cesaro. Are you referring to Cesaro's U.S. title run? Because that was all right. It wasn't too great. Show's best run was 2006 to 08. 09, sorry. Strowman should be champion as well, definitely. I wish Roman well, but he wasn't a good champ either. Neither was Kofi or HBK, even though she likes HBK. She thought Stone Cold Steve Austin was a bad champion. Oh, geez, made the scream there because he was my number one. Oh, boy. Benoit and Morrison were good. I definitely agree. Show preferred being a heel. As long as he's not being a big, child as a heel. If he's being just a big, giant, vicious heel, then I could take him seriously. But he's being the heel cheerleader, the authority, like he was. I remember in 2015, he was kind of coming, he's going, "Let's go, authority! Let's go, authority!" It was just ridiculous. I just didn't like that. Show can't even do it anymore. Starting to show it, yeah. Del Rio is one of the worst champions for sure. Paige is a good champion. Enzo was bad. Truth, yeah. Again, Truth was apparently United States champion at one point. I did not know that, but I heard that was bad. Carmella was okay, not the best. She was great on a mic, but she wasn't much of a wrestler as champion. Ray and Eddie definitely give them credit. Well, maybe not as much Ray because he wasn't booked the best as world champion in 2006. The story of him getting there was good, but then wasn't really booked that strong as world heavyweight champion. Eddie, though, for sure, yes, honorable mention. Do you think Mike Kanellis could be a good cruiserweight champion? Still needs to show me a little bit more first, I'd say, for Mike Kanellis. Cass could have been a good champ as well. I agree. And Enzo's heel run was so bad. I mean, in some ways, Enzo as a heel worked. But at the same time, again, why was he getting all that spotlight if he was getting, that much heat backstage? And let's not relive Jinder's reign, please. And don't even mention Lesnar. Lauren, you're gonna hate me big time towards the end. I'm sure you'll probably disown me towards the end of this stream. Neville was an awesome champion in NXT, yes, and even on 205 Live he was as well. Ollie needs to be champ as well. Oh, his time will come, definitely. I mean, maybe he'll beat Murphy at Survivor Series, but I still like to see Murphy get a long title reign as well. But definitely, Ollie deserves to be champion. Yeah, I mean, shoot. I mean, I was always on board for Natty getting a shot with the title, and I was glad she got that in 2017. But her acting, of course, during that run was atrocious. No offense. She thinks 205 Live is kind of boring. I mean, if you're still trying to get used to the show, yeah. But I mean, I definitely think if you're watching more so just for the wrestling, it's pretty good, I gotta say. NXT is good, yes. SmackDown Live is great, yes. Raw is garbage, yes. Enzo was trash, oh my god. He was great. He was good on the mic, but not overall. Again, he just wasn't a single star. I mean, if by himself, he was better off just being a manager. But as a single star, again, he had no potential. Because apparently also, well, again, I don't know how much to believe him also, but Simon Gotch used to be part of the Vaudevillains. Remember him? I heard this interview. He just trashed the hell out of Enzo and how, Enzo never went to wrestling school or whatnot. He was pretty much, was always there with his microphone skills, just trash of how, how much Enzo did not know about wrestling at all whatsoever. So yeah, I kind of sees that. I felt for Neville. That's why he left, because of his position on 205 Live. Plus, also, they probably weren't going to do anything else with him. But again, with Lucha House Party going to Raw, it gives me some hope that these cruiserweights are going to be doing more than just 205 Live. Some of them, I don't see them doing more than 205 Live, but there's a good amount of them. Yes, I definitely do. Roman as U.S. champ was bad. May he get well soon, though, definitely. And Drew needs a title. for sure. Lawler was also a bad champ as was Hogan. Hogan in his good days in the 80s wasn't bad, but then again, of course, they kind of overdid it with him. Lawler, yeah, kind of mad as well. She didn't think Shayna was a good champion. I mean, I know Shayna Baszler is not, a big like high flyer or whatnot, anything. But I think the character she plays and doesn't care about anyone, just wants to pretty much just physically injure people, pretty much with just her submissions and whatnot. That's like her bread and butter, which kind of makes her good in her way. But of course, it's like an overall way, like a lot of people want to see. Like I get why, but I still felt like her character is still effective as champion, in my opinion. Roman and Rusev feud was a sleeper. It was. Who did Cena lose the U.S. title to? Well, first he lost it to Seth Rollins at SummerSlam in 2015, but then he won it back at Night of Champions. Then he dropped it to Del Rio. Miz was a bad U.S. and WWE champion, but a good Intercontinental champion. Yeah, his first WWE title run was not good at all. I don't remember much about his U.S. title run, though. Rollins was great as WWE champ as well, even though he was booked a little bit. He still was both like a chicken shit heel, though, for a good amount of it. But I think, he still had other things to back it up to still make him look like a strong champion, though, definitely. Ambrose's second IC title run was trash as well. Yeah, that run was kind of flat. I'll give it that. That one was flat. Y2J's good champion. She loves Orton, which we all know that. But his U.S. title run was a demotion to him. I felt for him as was his WWE title run in 2017. Not his fault, though. Definitely agree. I mean, that the WWE title run, though, was just to put over Jinder Mahal. That's all it was. And his U.S. title run was completely pointless. I agree. Chavo as Cruiserweight champion was awful, she said. I didn't see that, but I'll take your word for it. She never liked Del Rio either. He's an asshole in real life as well. Oh, I know that for sure. Yeah, did Del Rio and Paige get married for sure? I never knew for sure. I knew he proposed her, but yeah, I'm glad she left him as well because that was bad for her. I hear that Matt Hardy was a bad United States champion because he was champion whenever he was part of the second ECW brand that was just awful as well, and it made that championship feel so irrelevant. Swagger was one of the worst heavyweight champions. I completely agree. He was never built to be world heavyweight champion material. Cena, she felt was always a good champion. The thing about Cena's title reigns, though, as world champion, he had some long runs, but a lot of them were too short, I felt. That's why I sometimes I do feel him being a 16-time champion is a little bit overrated because a good amount of them weren't that long. So, but he definitely did have some good runs. I'll give to him, and not all of them were great. JBL, she thought was a bad champion. Yeah, JBL. Well, JBL, I think effectively character-wise was a good heel to get heat, but he wasn't really one of the best champions either. I never really saw a good JBL match, really, in my opinion. I also don't like him as a person either. Booker T was a good heavyweight champion at times, but he did have some bad matches. I will give him that in WWE. Why did Swagger leave? I mean, he wasn't really doing much at all with the company, so I don't blame him. League of Nations, don't even remind me about them. They were awful. League of Jobbers, as my friend and I call them. I was at Raw the night the League of Nations were formed. Here's what I remember from that night. That opening celebration with the New Day coming out with all this confetti. I'm like, oh, this is awesome, hyping up. What's this going to be? Somebody say this is world title win. And I'm just like, I got all of this confetti in my nachos for this, that, the 5 minutes, 15 seconds crap. And, of course, that main event, that 7-on-4 tag match. Oh, God. Again, that was such an awful stable. That was such an awful episode of Raw, too. One of the worst Raws I've ever been. I mean, I feel, in my opinion, the worst Raw I've ever been to. That Raw in 2015. Oh, that was just awful. Cena should have lost it to someone credible when Cena got injured and lost to Del Rio. She lost my shit. I'm like, what the fuck, WWE? Not just the fact that he lost Del Rio. The fact they brought Del Rio back pissed me off. Vince should be in your top 3. It's not, but I actually completely forgot that Vince was once champion. Sabu, RVD, I wouldn't say they were terrible. Sheamus's reign stuff from 2009, 2010 was good. It's all right, except the fact that he won the. I mean, the thing about it though is that he won the match by pushing Cena into a table, and then I don't think there was a clean finish to his match at Royal Rumble in 2010, and he was one of the first. I think it was like he was like the second or third person eliminated from the Elimination Chamber. So it was kind of Morrison and Benoit were good. Bourne was okay. Angle was good. She'll never disown me. Thank goodness. Don't get me started on Khali. Bray Wyatt's definitely was an honorable mention because he was just a paper champion. He was only champion because they needed an excuse to have someone on the line for Randy Orton. Again, like no offense, but it was Cena and Nikki's proposal that kind of threw everything off. I think originally the plan was for Orton to turn. I mean, even though it would not have been good for Wyatt anyways, the plan was for Orton to turn on Wyatt in the Rumble, and he was going to face Wyatt in a one-on-one match at Elimination Chamber, and Orton was going to face Styles at WrestleMania for the championship, which would have been fine with me. But yeah, they completely wasted that championship run for Bray Wyatt. MVP show was bad as well. Candice show was okay. Michelle McCool was good. Layla was bad. She's Triple H WWE title reign in 16 was bad as well. Because I mean, again, as I kept saying, one that's right after the title win was when the feud with him and Roman Reigns went downhill. They literally just handed him another opportunity the night after, even though at the beginning of the night they said that Roman Reigns will not get any more champion opportunities as long as as he's champion. And you know what happens? They give an opportunity in a triple threat match to, again, 3 people that, once again, why would Triple H want to face any of them? Again, that feud was not about the championship. The match at WrestleMania should not have had the championship involved in it between Triple H and Roman Reigns, because Roman Reigns already accomplished that. He got the championship. Then it was just personal, just between him and the McMahons. It was not about the title. They could have put the title. Ambrose could have won the title for crying out loud that night, but nope, could not happen. Sorry. Sorry, your Raws were shit. Oh, no, don't worry about it. Lashley was a good ECW champion. Kelly Kelly was good. Nikki Bella, again, as I've always said, Nikki Bella's title reign, I was okay with it again until she didn't drop it to Naomi after WrestleMania, because she was in how many tag matches that summer, preventing her from defending that championship that ended up being, just to spite AJ Lee. Naomi in 2017 was okay, but she didn't defend it on a lot of pay-per-views for some reason. The only time she did was against Lana and Natalya. Owens and Sheamus, we'll talk about them shortly. Finn in 2016 would have been good because he was only champion for one night. But I'm sure Finn would have been a good Universal Champion if he would have gotten that longer term. But thank you, Lauren, as always, for the stuff in the live chat. I will get to my top 5 for worst men's singles champions of all time. Starting off with number 5. First, a swig of water. Number 5 was just mentioned by Lauren in the live chat. Kevin Owens, WWE Universal Championship reign from 2016 to 2017. What a huge disappointment. Big time disappointment. So Kevin Owens became Universal Champion, setting planting the seeds for more so the future match between Triple H and Seth Rollins for WrestleMania 33. Kevin Owens, of course, became world champion for the first time, as much deserving. And I thought this was going to be a great move by WWE. I mean, I really thought that night it was going to be Reigns or Rollins, which I would have been fine with Rollins winning the Universal Championship, but I mean, I didn't expect Big Cass to win, but I thought, Kevin Owens is kind of like, the wild card in this. He could win it, but maybe he won't. And he won it. Thanks to Triple H's help, of course. That was an ongoing theme. At Hell in a Cell, I mean, at Night of Champions, disappointing match between Rollins and Owens. How did he win? Jericho helped him. And at Hell in a Cell, Universal title match. Yeah, I mean, the match was actually pretty good, but how did Owens win? Jericho helped him. And then, of course, they had a no disqualification match also on Raw for the Universal title. How did Owens win? Jericho helped him. And then, of course, he got disqualified in the Survivor Series men's elimination match, which even though that was a good match, he got disqualified for reason the list. Excuse me. How did he win the match? How did he retain a championship at Roadblock end of the line against Roman Reigns? Jericho helped him. What happened at Royal Rumble? He had help. The moment Jericho went away, Owens got squashed by Goldberg and lost the Universal Championship. Now, of course, not all heel champions, of course, but some of them like cheating, getting help is acceptable. Kevin Owens, though, in NXT, was a badass dominating champion. And that's what I wanted to see out of him as Universal Champion. Yeah, him and Jericho as an act was great. Like, they were great together, both on the microphone. Their segments were great. But they literally had I think his whole time as Universal Champion, I don't remember maybe like 1 or 2 matches where Owens won clean by himself and with no help at all whatsoever. Just a slap in the face to what the legacy of what Kevin Owens could have been as Universal Champion. He could have been a great Universal Champion. Like, it's a dominating one. If they would have booked him like they did he was an NXT champion at NXT, and even the beginning of his feud with John Cena in 2015. Remember, this is a guy who beat John Cena clean, with absolutely no help whatsoever. That guy had so much potential for him. And then what happens? He went from fight Owens fight to walk Owens walk. And this Universal title reign, again, yeah, he got a long reign. But yes, it was fresh. Yes, it was someone else got opportunity. But he was booked like crap. He had the same matches every single week with either Roman Reigns or Seth Rollins, because that's the only Rollins, Reigns, Jericho, and Owens faced each other only for like the fall of 2016. It was pathetic. Absolutely terrible. And you made Owens look more like a loser again by getting completely squashed by Goldberg at Fastlane. My opinion, again, the feud with Goldberg and Brock Lesnar did not need the championship in it. It did not. It didn't. I mean, yes, it was kind of, a little bit of like, of a contribution for, Goldberg's run, which I get, but it didn't need the championship. He didn't need to have that championship. I mean, they could have had Owens either drop the title back to Balor when Finn came back. Like, he could have had like an open challenge at WrestleMania and Balor could have come back. Well, apparently also rumors that there was a chance that Owens may have worked with Brock at WrestleMania. A couple years ago, you could get me to want to see that match. Now, I don't want to see that match whatsoever. Honestly, they should have just had, Jericho dethrone Owens at WrestleMania instead of just having him get squashed by Goldberg. And a lot of people said that were disappointed with the match that Jericho and Owens had at WrestleMania. I thought it was good. I mean, yeah, it could have been better, but I still was pleased with the effort they did. But it's for the U.S. title. Could have been for the Universal Championship. It's a terrible run. Had to have help every single time. Again, some people, yes, it works, but it doesn't work for Kevin Owens. He was Owens fight, dominating, a badass. Heck, his pop-up powerbomb on the apron was putting people out of action. Well, it was supposed to kayfabe I was look like it, but how many times did he do it on Rollins or Reigns, as Universal Champion? And then Rollins and Reigns were right back the following week. Like nothing ever happened. Such a shame. A run that should have been awesome ends up being terrible. But that is my number 5. It's Owens' Universal Championship reign from 2016 to 2017. Number 4, Sheamus as WWE World Heavyweight Champion in 2015. One of the worst pay-per-views I've ever seen. Survivor Series 2015. Just an awful, awful show. Matches were rushed. The 5-on-5 elimination match was really just made up at the last second, and it was pointless. And, of course, we all knew Roman Reigns was going to win the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. But, of course, this is around a time where it's getting exposed that Vince McMahon does stuff because he's afraid of Roman getting his reaction. You could have at least maybe, had Ambrose turn on Reigns that night. Or you could have had, Ambrose win the championship that night. But there was somebody else in the background. A great white Celtic warrior who I always put over. Sheamus, despite the fact that he's kind of gotten a bad rep as a single star at times because of some of his bad booking. Well, again, as a wrestler, he's awesome. Character-wise, he's had some low points in his career. But I cannot take away that Sheamus is definitely one of the hardest working stars I've seen in my time watching the WWE. He's definitely a great worker and whatnot, and I'll give him all the credit. And giving him Money in the Bank in 2015 was an excellent idea to try to, put an exclamation point on him as being a heel. But he was booked like crap as Mr. Money in the Bank. I remember earlier in that show, he said some weird random line before that pointless 5-on-5 elimination match that the men were going to have. Again, that wasn't even advertised. It just happened on the show. It felt like a bunch of low card participating in some type of tradition. Sheamus said some line earlier that night, and everyone looked at him like who the hell are you or whatnot. It was awful. His run with Money in the Bank was awful. So what did they feel to do? Throw a guy who had not been built up back to a main event level to cash in his Money in the Bank briefcase that night just to get sympathy on Roman Reigns. And that run he had was god-awful. It was so bad. The League of Nations being invented in there. Again, the whole 5 minutes and 15 second stuff was crap. And then, of course, my worst promo of the year from 2015. Remember Professor Tater Tot? That segment in the end, the Go Home show of before TLC in 2015. That whole, which actually, funny thing was TLC 2015 ended up being a pretty good show. Like I think it was like a B grade. I would have given it when I was watching it back then. I would probably given TLC a B, but it was a pretty good show, especially that ending. And the match with Sheamus and Roman was okay. It wasn't terrible, but it was okay. But that Professor Tater Tot segment, my goodness. Roman Reigns saying those corny jokes again. That's not him. He just needs to be a smug badass. Oh my goodness. They talked for like 20 minutes before they finally got in the ring and brawled. But that, a desperate attempt to try to get Roman Reigns cheered. And it just backfired. Sheamus could have been a world champion again if they built him up to be so. But they didn't. He gave him the Money in the Bank briefcase, and he just barely did anything afterwards. He had a minute feud with Orton. He was on the pre-show of Hell in a Cell in like a random 6-man tag match. And he lost in like the first or second round of the WWE Championship tournament after Seth Rollins had to relinquish the championship. So he was not being built as a serious contender for the world title. But all of a sudden, boom, he's good enough to be world champion. Again, all respect to Sheamus again. He's a great worker, but him as WWE World Heavyweight Champion, especially in 2015, was not good. His runs earlier in 2010 could have been better, but they weren't as bad as this, I feel. Jeez, oh man, this was a bad run for him. So that's why he's my number 4. Sheamus in 2015 was awful as WWE World Heavyweight Champion. Number 3, the Great Khali as World Heavyweight Champion in 2007. Don't make me repeat that again and get sick. Rumors have it, the only reason why the Great Khali was World Heavyweight Champion in 2007 is because of injuries to Mr. Kennedy and Edge. So the backstory was, again, Mr. Kennedy was supposed to get some mega push and be Mr. Money in the Bank, cash in and become World Heavyweight Champion. But then he would drop the title to Triple H in a marquee match at WrestleMania 24. Kind of a part of the whole thing with, Vince McMahon's limo game blown up and him being Vince McMahon's illegitimate son. Well, the Chris Benoit death, first off, put a dagger on that because Vince McMahon had to, appear on TV again to, address Chris Benoit's death. And then Mr. Kennedy suffered an injury that was supposed to be long-term, but not as long as they expected. So he didn't have to drop Money in the Bank. But then also he violated a wellness policy, so he got suspended for that. So that push went completely down the drain. But when Kennedy first had to give up the Money in the Bank briefcase, they gave it to Edge. Edge cashed on Taker, but then Edge got injured. And what happened? They needed another top heel as champion. Who did they pick? The Great Khali. Or as I call him, the world's tallest Christmas elf. Because literally the first night I saw a WWE event again was the Christmas Raw and SmackDown tapings in 2012. Great Khali was dressed up as a Christmas elf. And as I always say, when I was Hermie for my school's Christmas play, my senior year of high school, I thought I was the world's tallest elf. He overpassed that, except I was a good elf. He was a terrible elf. The guy can't wrestle. He was just boring, awkward to watch in the ring, stiff as a board. All he could do is go, jump, push. I hate this. I hate to put it to this way or be this insulting. It looks like him being like, a cat, like a little, mini cat fight or something like that whenever he wrestled. He just grabbed and pushed, chopped, barely anything. Slow, draggy, and boring. And then just because he's big, 7'4", whatever heck how tall he was, he got to be world champion because of the injuries to the two other big heels in the company at the time. Pathetic. Absolutely awful and a forgettable title reign. Great Khali in 2007. Number 2. Again, anyone in the live chat, do not hate me for these last two. Number 2, Brock Lesnar's Universal Championship reign from 2017 to 2018. Oh boy. I talked about this how many times over the past year and a half, especially this year in general. This Universal title has literally been a piece of garbage since it came. It could have been good with Finn Balor, but he got injured. Kevin Owens' Universal title reign was crap. Goldberg was just a cup of tea. Then Brock Lesnar, out of nowhere, gets a title shot only because the guy he was challenging for WrestleMania was Universal Champion in Goldberg. And at first, Brock was defending that title quite often because he defended it at Great Balls of Fire. Hashtag WWE Balls. He defended there, at SummerSlam, and at No Mercy. So he did defend it for 3 straight pay-per-views. And I give him some credit for that. But then he didn't defend it at what was the next pay-per-view? Oh, Hell in a Cell. TLC, he did not defend it there. He was at Survivor Series, but of course he was in a champion versus champion match. And then he defended it at Royal Rumble in a pointless match between Kane and Braun Strowman. And then, of course, let's not get into the feud with Roman Reigns. That was all of a sudden emphasized, hey, Brock Lesnar does not show up all the time. No shit. We realized that for how many years, but that was only getting pointed out now because the man that the WWE is so desperate to get over is getting a Universal title shot. And once again, Brock should have just dropped it to Roman at WrestleMania, but he didn't, and this cancer of a feud went on and on and on as Brock did not defend the championship from the greatest Royal Rumble till SummerSlam. How many months was that? This guy, again, was champion for 504 days. Yet he only defended that championship 10 times. 11 counting SummerSlam. 11 times he only defended that championship. Over 504 days. Where does he get these special privileges to do that? And it's not just that, but most of his matches as Universal Champion were absolute crap. His match with Joe was meh, okay. The match at SummerSlam was good, but that's because Braun Strowman was destroying everyone. His match with Strowman No Mercy sucked. His non-title match with Styles, though, was good. The Triple Threat sucked. The WrestleMania 34 match sucked. The Greatest Royal Rumble match sucked. And, of course, the SummerSlam match wasn't that great either. And then he has recently squashed Braun Strowman to get that title back, and I don't get why. Why? Why is this guy champion again? Why did this guy have the privilege of being a part-timer and being champion and can defend the title whenever he wants? What gives him these special privileges? Vince even mentioned in a promo that Brock Lesnar gets special privileges. But why? Back when, Alexa Bliss was complaining about having to defend her women's championship inside the Elimination Chamber, but Brock Lesnar didn't have to. There was no good reason as to explain why he didn't have to. Why does Brock Lesnar not have to defend that title every 30 days? Why can he wait as long as he wants to defend that title and not give a crap about the WWE universe? Which, that's fine if he doesn't, but still, once again, why? That title means nothing. That Universal Championship, again, as I keep saying, belongs in the garbage, and they shouldn't have AJ Styles just, defend the title on both brands. No excuse. I will forgive somewhat, the first, the World Heavyweight Championship run he had from 2014 and 2015. I forgive that one because it was just over the time period, and it was during a time also where the WWE, was kind of a rebuilding stage of who could be in the championship run. So I kind of can forgive that as well. With his Universal title run, no excuse. Again, they better get that title off him soon. Don't you dare drag that championship out until Roman Reigns comes back. Don't you dare. But of course, it's not the worst title reign of all time. Let's go through 10-2 before we get to the number one, which you guys pretty much can tell already who is my number one. But let's go over 10-2 first of my worst men's singles champions of all time. Number 10 is Ryback's IC title reign in 2015. Number 9 is Big Show as world champion in 2012. Number 8, Enzo Amore's Cruiserweight Championship reign in 2017. Number 7, Roman Reigns' U.S. title reign in 2016. 6 is Del Rio's U.S. title reign in 2015. Owens' Universal Championship reign is number 5 from 2016 to 2017. Number 4 is Sheamus' World Heavyweight Championship run in 2015. Number 3 is the Great Khali's World Champion in 2007. Number 2 is Brock's recent Universal Championship reign from 2017 to 2018. Number 1, Jinder Mahal's WWE Championship reign in 2017. Guys, please don't disown me. I'm about to go into a rant. Jinder Mahal was only WWE champion because of that big India tour they were going to be doing in December. That is the only reason why Jinder Mahal was WWE champion. Jinder Mahal being WWE champion proves that the WWE can literally give Curtis Axel or Bo Dallas or even Tyler Breeze or so many other men, like not just low card guys, mid card guys, Braun Strowman, Drew McIntyre, could have been Cody Rhodes, Apollo Crews. So many guys can be world champion. I can be world champion if Jinder Mahal can be world champion. Jinder Mahal was a legit jobber on catering for main event on Raw. They bring him over to SmackDown, which that already pissed me off because I wanted someone else like, Axel or Dallas to go to SmackDown because that's back when I had the faith in SmackDown Live to make superstars' careers better. Unfortunately, that year it didn't. It made careers worse. But you get the point. But then I hear this rumor of this Jinder Mahal push. And I'm thinking, okay, maybe they'll give him a run in the mid cards. That could be something I could maybe see trying and maybe say, okay, this isn't too bad. No. They put him in the main event scene right away as soon as he came over to SmackDown Live. He wasn't able to win a match, but all of a sudden he was winning matches thanks to the help of the Singh brothers. And the Colossus was such a big deal. And he beats Randy Orton for the title at Backlash. Of all people for him to beat, he beat a legend in Randy Orton to become champion. And I'm like, okay, I didn't expect this to happen, but maybe this will be a month to get a test drive, see what happens. Because the rumors have it, and remember again, Rusev said he was not going to come back to SmackDown until he got a WWE Championship opportunity at Money in the Bank that year. That idea got thrown out the window afterwards because they went with Jinder. Again, it was supposed to be Rusev getting his title reign, which would have been a lot better. But no, Road Dogg had to go intervene and give it to Jinder. The matches with Randy weren't that great, especially the Punjabi prison match, and especially the fact you brought back the Great Khali to help him for one night just because it was the Punjabi prison. And the other thing is, why on earth would Jinder Mahal want to be inside the Punjabi prison if he couldn't win a match by himself? Why would he want to be inside the Punjabi prison? A match that's not a wrestling match, it's an obstacle course. You got to climb through 2 layers to get out. That to win the match. That's the only way to win the match. Not pinfall, not submission. Yes, a cage match can escape. I get that. But just climbing over layers, like wrestling doesn't matter. You can just climb out of that cage, out of that prison you want. It's a shitty match. One of the worst gimmick matches, in my opinion, Punjabi prison. But not just that. You had him defeat Shinsuke Nakamura twice, which began the downfall of Shinsuke Nakamura's career. And if you would have dared to have him beat AJ Styles, there would have been no hope. If he would have beaten Brock Lesnar, if he would have wrestled Brock Lesnar in Survivor Series last year, I would have been fiery red hot mad. But then, here's what gets good. Again, remember I mentioned before how there was that whole India trip, which is why they wanted Jinder to be, the champion. That trip was all centered around him. Now, my idea, I thought after that whole spew was over with, okay, what if you had Jinder Mahal, of course, have a run with the U.S. title, build him up, and then if you wanted to make a big deal for the India tour, have him win the WWE Championship in India. If you built him up. Instead, once again, they literally, an old professor of mine in college literally once said this one time, you can't make gold from poop. And that's exactly what they did with Jinder Mahal. He was crap, and they tried to make him into gold within the span of a couple weeks. You can't do that. It's not going to work, and it's not believable. Again, though, I was trying to give it a chance, but after the fact that he couldn't even put over Shinsuke and give the title to him, that's when I'm like, screw this. And his promos were god-awful. Again, the promos where he was mocking Shinsuke's face were just cringeworthy. Literally, that is the best he had to further a second match between him and Shinsuke for Hell in a Cell, is just to make fun of his face. He has, and still does to this day, have those promos where it's just you look at him and you're just like, you are a loser. Is this the best you got? Just by making fun of a face? Ha ha, very funny. And once again, haven't done this imitation in a while. It led to Shinsuke Nakamura saying, the sticks and stones, they break my bones, but words will never hurt me. God, his English was so bad. Still is, but here's the good part. Here's the part that really gets me. When that India tour happened, Jinder Mahal faced Triple H, and he lost. And Triple H claims it was because he's not ready to be in the main event. Seriously? You dead serious? You had us sit through May, June, July, August, September, October, November, a 7-month title reign to a guy that was literally nothing but a jobber on main event. All of a sudden, a week or so later, a main eventer in the World Championship scene. And you build this tour all around him, have your blue brand product suffer for months because of a guy who's in the main event scene. just for him to lose on that tour and just to be told that, hey, he's not ready to be a main eventer yet. I just cannot believe the WWE literally wasted 7 months of our time and someone else like Rusev, or even they would have had this title back on Styles, or I don't know, Kevin Owens, who knows, somebody else, but Jinder freaking Mahal. You wasted our time with him. And now, where is he now? Where is he now? He's on Raw going, Shanti, or as my one friend goes, shitty. Just a slap in the face. Slap in the face. And yes, Brock winning the title back at Crown Jewel last Friday was a slap in the face, but this might have been a little bit worse. Just having us go through that pain for months just to have him lose at a show that was all built up around him. I saw photos. He had some big special entrance, a big thing. He was no hero. He was no Indian hero to India. He wasn't that over it. People knew he was crap. Just terrible. The worst singles champion of all time. Again, Jinder Mahal. And before I check the live chat again, let me go over both lists I had for this special live stream. Starting off again with the list of my top 10 WWE World Champions of all time. Number 10, Daniel Bryan as World Heavyweight Champion. Number 9, Batista as World Heavyweight Champion. Number 8, AJ Styles, WWE Champion. Number 7, Hulk Hogan, WWF Champion. Number 6, Triple H was World Heavyweight Championship reigns. I thought those were better than his WWE Championship reigns. Randy Orton as WWE Championship reigns in 2009. Number 4, CM Punk's WWE Championship reign in 2011 to 2013, would also give credit to its 2009 World Heavyweight Championship reign. Number 3 was Edge's World Heavyweight Championship reigns. Against World title reigns, not WWE title reigns. Number 2 is The Rock's WWE Championship reigns. Number 1 was Stone Cold Steve Austin's WWE Championship reigns. In his career, those are my top 10 world champions of all time. For my top 10 worst men's singles champions of all time, number 10 is Ryback's IC title reign in 2015. Number 9 is Big Show's World Heavyweight Championship reign from 2012 to 2013. 8 was Enzo's Cruiserweight Championship reign in 2017. Roman Reigns' U.S. Championship reign in 2016 was number 7. Alberto Del Rio's U.S. title reign in 2015 was number 6. Number 5 is Owens' Universal title reign in 2016 and 2017. Number 4 was Sheamus being world champion in 2015. Number 3 was Great Khali's World Championship reign in 2007. Number 2 is Brock Lesnar's recent Universal Championship reign since he got the title back. And number 1, Jinder Mahal, WWE Champion in 2017. Those guys are my 2 lists for this week's special live stream. Again, I did want to do top 10 WWE and top 10 world champions several lists, but again, I wasn't able to come up with solid lists. That's why I reverted back to a second list of top 10 worst singles men's champions of all time. But again, we'll do tag champions some other time. Before I check the live chat again, let me just check to see what's next week. Next week actually is going to be best and worst promos and segments of all time. So that will be a fun one. I'm very excited for that one. But let's check the live chat and see who we got in the live chat. Let's see here. I think we were right here. Chug, chug, chug. Yes, I love my water. Owens can be a great champion. For sure, he definitely can. But unfortunately, when he's being booked as a coward and not as a badass, he will suck. Sami Zayn needs a title run, for sure. Whether it's the Intercontinental Championship or the World Championship, he definitely deserves it for sure when he comes back. Lesnar is the Universal Champion. Yeah, it was terrible. Carlito, can't really remember his Intercontinental title reign. Victoria, don't remember hers. Sasha in 2016, well, thing was the feud was great, but again, Sasha couldn't defend the title without winning. Bayley in 2017 was bad. That was bad because she was booked terribly as a champion. She couldn't win the title without any help, except for at WrestleMania where she retained. Where that was a good match. Goldberg in 17 was a cup of tea. Noam Dar, he was never champion. Cody Rhodes as Intercontinental Champion in 2011 was good. Goldust, don't remember much of him as champion. Show was bad. Shane McMahon, can't remember his championship runs too well. Owens and Y2J could have had the Universal title match at 33 instead of Goldberg and Brock. I agree. Now Goldberg is supposedly retired, which I believe he is. Y2J, again, he was great entertainment, but him helping Owens made Owens look weak, though, in my opinion, though. I mean, his helping was entertaining, but again, it was the same crap over and over again, and it made Owens look weak, I thought. Survivor Series is one of the worst pay-per-views ever, but I was happy Sheamus cashed in, though, but at the same time, I felt for Roman. But again, it's just Sheamus wasn't built up to be a strong champion. Dean could have defeated Roman that night and have Sheamus cash in on Dean, which could have happened also. But again, that shoot. But again, the thing was, again, Sheamus was not booked well as Money in the Bank for me to believe he could be a world champion. That was the problem I had, though. During the Sheamus feud with Orton in 2015, he could have been for a title, you know, maybe the IC title, maybe even Rollins. Sheamus as a heel now sucks, to be honest. It's not the same, not quite. I mean, the bars still just feel like tweeners now. They don't feel like full-fledged heels. Well, even though they have the Big Show in their corner now, but they don't feel like full fledged heels. They feel more like tweeners right now. Umaga's down 7 or down 6. She thinks Jinder or Brock's gonna be number 1. Khali could have been a monster champion, but W screwed up in that Punjabi prison in 2017 when he returned and cost Orton. Made no sense at all. Orton should have had that title that night. Oh my gosh, so bad. I agree. The Khali and Batista feud was awful. Edge got injured. Could have made the next best champion. Then we had Khali as Wajabi Playboy. Oh, don't remind me. Who would want to kiss that ugly face? I'd switch Jinder with Lesnar, she feels, honestly. Maybe, yeah. Why did they even do Lesnar and Goldberg again? Both are boring and suck as champion. They lost all my respects. I mean, you know, even like hearing, you know, Goldberg, the person, talk about how much that run meant to him, like kind of like maybe a little more respect for him. But I do agree completely. They didn't need to have the championship involved in that feud. They didn't. They didn't need to. Well, what made things a little more interesting, though, instead of having Goldberg squash Brock, why not have Brock beat Goldberg and have Goldberg, you know, just fight for that one last shot to finally beat Brock before he retired, before he left again? Excuse me, just my opinion. Only reason why they made Jinder champion was for the India landmark, and Triple H degraded him. Exactly. It made no sense. They did Orton and Nakamura both dirty with the title feuds with Jinder. I was not happy at all. What about Nakamura's U.S. title reign? Still early in it, but it sucks so far, for sure. Lesnar's Vince's golden boy. That's why they don't know why I'd rather have Roman and she'd rather have Roman and Cena. I think they put the title on Lesnar again, despite the fans and Roman. Could be. Bless you. Thank you. Alexa did have a point, though, with that. Yes, the Universal title could have been great if Dean, Rollins, Finn, Cena, Orton, Styles, and Owens had it and were booked good. What's up, Larry? He doesn't have a he has a down face. I guess he must have caught this late. Honorable mentions for worst. What about best? Honorable mentions. Yeah, Nakamura's U.S. title reign is definitely up there. I mean, Orton's run was short in 2017. Bobby Roode's U.S. title reign was bad. Good ones, though, trying to think. Benoit's, Eddie's, maybe Lesnar's earlier, like from between 2006 and 2004. We'll give him credit there for that. What other ones? I'm not too sure. He said was notified. No worries. Screw YouTube. That's all right, Larry. A great stream. Got to work tomorrow. Sweet dreams. See you Monday. Love your rant. Thank you, Lauren. Definitely for joining me. And how did Jinder defeat Orton in his hometown? And I agree, Rusev was supposed to dethrone Orton at SummerSlam that year. That or either at Money in the Bank, I heard. Jinder never won his own. What was the point if he was on SmackDown Live? It sucked. But why have Styles defeat Jinder, but Orton, Nakamura, Rusev, and Cena can't? Makes no sense. Well, Cena didn't the match he had with Cena on the week before the home show for SummerSlam didn't end in a clean finish because Corbin interfered. But remember, Jinder kicked out of the AA. Jinder Mahal kicked out of the AA and Corbin didn't. That was pathetic. I'm glad Styles did, though. I definitely agree. She says, sorry, just had to say more. Heading to bed. Sweet dreams. Thank you again for joining me live. Surprised you didn't have Cena's reign of 06-07 as the best title reigns. I'd say honorable mention for that. That one as well. But it sounds like it's pretty much it. Here's Lawrence checking out. Larry joined us late, but it's okay. But yeah, we're going on about 2 hours here. I'm going to get ready to, go just relax for the rest of the night. Thank you guys again for joining into this double special stream again with top 10 world champions and the worst men's single champions. Again, next week will be the best and worst promos and segments of all time. We'll get to that next week, and that should be a very fun one. So, guys, what are your best world champions? What are some of your worst champions of all time as well? Leave us down in the comment section below as always. And be sure to always click buy, like, and subscribe to my channel. You may follow me on Twitter, @ManOver93. Of course, I started 3 video game Let's Plays this week. Hitler the Ninth Gate, Backyard Baseball 2003, and I even started doing Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone also today as well. So I'll be doing those 3 throughout the next couple weeks. Again, my baseball custom players are going to be getting some spotlight here soon as well again. But I wanted to just mix things up still, not just do just one thing, just mix things up, do a little bit of everything. Kind of a little bit Big Mac Davis style here for those of you who watch this video game channel, if you know what I mean. But yeah, for wrestling videos though, next week I'll have Raw, SmackDown, NXT UK, 205 Live, and NXT reviews. As always, special stream. I will do my predictions for NXT TakeOver War Games 2 and for Survivor Series sometime next week as well. And of course, I'll be doing a lot of reviews for NXT TakeOver War Games 2 and Survivor Series, but I will not be able to catch TakeOver War Games immediately though on Saturday because I have to work next Saturday. But I'm not going to be out as late as I was for the last TakeOver that we had. And plus, too, I'm only going to be 20 minutes up the street from where I live anyways for that. So make sure to tune in for those reviews as well. So yeah, to stay tuned for a lot of stuff to come on my channel, and of course, getting closer to the end of the year. So again, in December, I'm going to be sure to do a lot of top 10s for stuff throughout this year, and of course, it's hyped up. Also, not sure what day it will be yet, but the greatest of WWE. Best of the year I do with Daniel Gaius on his channel is sometime in December also. That's a great video. I always love doing that video with him every single year. Came for that next month as well. But yeah, guys, I'm checking out, guys. Thank you all again for doing the special stream. I'll talk to you guys later. Have a great rest of your night, and peace out, everybody.